Hey everybody, this is Josh Mckinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 192 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. So today, I have by the title of the episode, I have a very different episode for you guys. Something that we never do on the show is talk any type of jiu-jitsu drama. I do often, every once in a while, I will do some explanations of matches that I've had and stuff like that. But this specific match, the specific situation after the match, everything that happened has seemed to be talked about in the Midwest a lot, because I've gotten a lot of messages from a lot of different people who were not at the tournament at all asking me, hey, is this story that I heard about you true? And so I thought I would just, luckily for me, I have a podcast where I can talk about these things, and I thought I would just shed some light on this situation. The story, it's crazy. You are not going to believe me. It is 100% true. Everything that I'm going to tell you is true. Of course, I'm going to exaggerate certain things, but I'll let you know when I'm doing that. I only do that for humor's sake. And yeah, we're just going to kind of get into this one. I have some disclaimers in this episode, but I honestly wrote them in my notes to be later. I thought I would just start the episode out telling you guys what you want to hear about how Josh Mckinney beat a no-gi world champion, and then that no-gi world champion didn't take the loss very well. And so we will get into this story. You guys will laugh, you guys will cry, you guys will hopefully be excited. Let's go ahead and get into today's episode of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. So our story starts out, and keep in mind, this is a Q&A episode, but most of the Qs that I was asked to were about this specific story. And so I thought I would just tell kind of my version of the story right off the bat, and then we'll get into some questions, and then we'll actually get into some non-Nashville Open questions. That being said, start out, we are at the IBJJF Nashville Open getting ready to compete. At any point in this story, if you have this thought of like, oh, the IBJJF didn't do something well, or this is any form their fault, you are wrong. They handled this situation well. You guys know me. I'm a very pro IBJJF person because, well, shoot, you don't get to fight that level of competition anywhere else that consistently week in and week out. You know, if you want to compete in the IBJJF, even if you don't want to leave America, you can compete almost every weekend. And honestly, it is a blast getting to run the IBJJF circuit. And I get not liking certain rule sets, not liking certain things. Those things are always going to be preference. You're always going to have people going, oh, this is the best rule set. This is the best rule set. No one's ever right. You're really not. You know, even if it is the best rule set or it's the best tournament, it'll probably only be for a little bit of time. But that being said, the IBJJF has been really consistent. I'm wearing an IBJJF shirt right now. Man, that wasn't even on purpose. Just wanted to make sure I said that before we get into the matches. So first match of the day, my opponent actually got hurt the week of training, and he had came up to me. We talked about it. He wasn't going to be able to compete. So I have, I'm basically already advancing into the semifinals. I have the number 1 seed in the division, and this guy, super active competitor, just a submission machine. And he ended up that weekend doing really, I think he got like second in the open class, maybe first in his no-gi division. And man, he might have even, I think he placed in the no-gi open class too. Just a phenomenal competitor and just very dangerous. And so I'm kind of going out into that match. I feel very good. I feel very confident, but I am expecting a shootout. I'm not expecting hey, let's sweep each other back and forth. Let's try to fight for position. This guy is very similar to me, as in like, he likes to try to get off the mat quick. And so, maybe he has the same opinion secretly that he just thinks 10-minute matches are too freaking long. Just likes to get off the mat quick. If you're trying to win a tournament, one of the best ways to do that is to not be tired. One of the best ways to not be tired is just to submit people in like a second, right? It's like, it was funny. I did, like I said, this match was a shootout. It was like 30 seconds long. I'm able to get a finish. And, I come off the mat, I'm talking to some of my students, and we're just like, we're excited about that match. Felt really good. In my opinion, probably the best American, one of the best Americans in my division right now. And so I'm excited about that win. And so my students are coming up like, hey, why don't you just submit guys to start matches all the time? And I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's like the scene in Happy Gilmore where he's like, maybe I should just try to get the ball in the hole on the first try every time, and that was my game plan. Like, maybe I should just try to win these matches. No, in all seriousness, those things happen when you are having shootouts with people willing to have shootouts, and so willing to risk it all. And so I was glad to come out on top on that one. Watched the semifinals on the other side of the bracket. This was actually a unique tournament for me because not only did I coach and compete at the same time, but I had a lot of success in both. Usually, I seem to still have success in coaching because my students are better than me, and then not as much success in competing. It's usually easier for me to just focus on competing, right? But this time, just didn't even think about it. We were doing it all. And so actually right after my first match, ran over and coached the final of the adult purple belt medium heavyweight division where Richie Kelly won his division. So I'm literally like able to, our matches started almost the same time, able to run over and coach most of his match. That was really cool. But then I'm watching the semifinals of my division. And it's a guy that I don't know, and he is fighting a guy who is a no-gi world champion, a silver medalist at ADCC. His name's AJ Agazarm. If you know Josh McKinney but don't know AJ Agazarm, I mean, that sounds confusing. He's got a lot more followers on the gram than your boy, right? And so very, very good competitor, but I'm watching his match, and I am right on the edge of the mat. I'm feeling very good. I'm hydrated from the weight cut at this point, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to win this division. I'm here to score points. Not here to get wins over any specific person. I'm just here to get enough points to do worlds, because that's the goal, right? We always talk about breaking down goals into smaller pieces. Well, a small piece of this goal is I'm here to score 27 points by getting first place, right? I don't want to make this middleweight diet an extra time because I need extra points. And so, that's what a weird motivation. Like, I just don't want to diet anymore. I just want to eat food for a while, And so, anyway, I watch this match. I really do think, I'm really feeling confident. I'm going, okay, I think that his best stuff I can defend very well. And my best stuff is going to be set up off of beating his best stuff. And that was kind of how I was playing it in my mind. I was really feeling confident. Talked to some of my coaches, Nick Sanders, Devin Parada, and Vava. All three are, kind of have me in the corner. Nick says, hey, don't shake his hand once the timer starts, once the match starts. Got it. Won't do it. Because if you guys don't know, AJ tends to be a heel. He tends to be the bad guy, and it's not uncommon for him to try to shoot a takedown or to get that handshake grip and pull guard off of it. And so, we're not there to make friends today. We're there to win matches, right? And so they tell me that. I actually talked to some of my other coaches. My other coaches are my students, and we have a few little like, hey, this is how we're going to handle it. This is what we're going to do. This is, we're going to beat this guy this way. And just a lot of confidence talk, a lot of things like that. And so we go out for the match. And like I said, I don't shake his hand once the match starts. Shake his hand at the beginning. Don't shake his hand once the match starts. Actually, shake his hand literally right after. You can. I'll make sure to link the IBJJF video of this match. There's actually a really good breakdown that my buddy Uzo did, and he is going to. I'll make sure to link that too. I almost think that might be more fun to watch. Or screw it, you can watch both. I'll link both the match and the match breakdown, and I think you guys will really like it. But anyway, I think. Match starts, I score early, I'm on top, I'm pretty dominant on top. And like I said, you guys can make that assumption, or you can say whether or not I was dominant on top. I am up on points the whole time. I towards the end of the match, there is like a little bit of a situation where I probably go for something I shouldn't have. Probably should have just stayed on top, won the match, been smart. But you guys know me. Be smart. That doesn't make any sense to me. So what I do instead is I try to submit him. I end up giving up points doing that. And the score ends up tied. And I've been, in my opinion, from my perspective, how it's been feeling, I have been dominating this match. And then I look up and there's like 2.5 minutes left. I'm like, shoot, the score is tied and I'm on bottom. How did this happen? This was such a bad choice. Well, I end up still with very little time left, still being able to lock up a triangle, turn it into an armbar. If I do think I could have finished it if there was time, but I don't think I would have went for it. It probably would have been pretty risky to go for it like the beginning of the match or something like that. But anyway, I do think I had that finished if there's time, but there wasn't. Regardless, I knew I was going to score off of those submission attempts. They were deep, deep. And I did win the match. AJ complains about something in Portuguese. I don't know. I don't speak the language, so could have been anything. He could have just been insulting me for 5 minutes. And after I tell you the rest of the story, you may think that that's what he was doing. So anyway, shake his hand right after the match ends. We walk off. And at first, he looks a little humbled. That is kind of the look that I see. He kind of walks past me. I get up. I get my stuff. As I'm walking out, I just pat him on the back, just like a little touch. Hey, man, good match. Exact words. And as I'm doing it, I'm just walking past and I'm walking towards one of my blue belts. And I feel a shove on my, like pushing me from behind. And I was a little bit further away from him. So it wasn't hard. I'm not falling forward or something, but it was enough to move my body and kind of run me into my blue belt. And he also said, get the F off of me. But he didn't say it like, get the F off of me. It's like, when you're playing a video game or you're playing basketball with your little brother or your little nephew or the little cousin or someone like that, someone who just couldn't beat you, right? There's just no chance they couldn't beat you. And they get that voice that it's not like, oh, get the F off of me or something like that. It's like, I'm telling mom. I'm telling mom right now. It was like that voice, get the F off of me. And I couldn't help it. I laughed. It was hilarious. Sue me. It was funny. How could someone who won the world championships be so upset about losing to some nobody? How could I have affected you emotionally that bad? Josh Mckinney, the podcaster, the host of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. You're that upset. And it should have ended there. That should have been the end of this story. It's still kind of a funny story. Had that have been the end of the story, I probably wouldn't have been telling you guys this part. I probably would have said I won, and that's all that happened. But again, that's not where this ends. So as I'm walking away, I know I'm going to get, my gold medal. I won my division. And so we are going to get on the podium soon. And I'm trying to not make a scene. I'm trying to, like I said, me and this blue belt laughed it off and they just kind of walked away. He looked furious, but he walked away. And, it was just like, for me, it was like, hey, I'm not going to give you an emotional response. I just beat you. And you're trying to win somewhere. You're trying to go, well, if I can get this guy mad, if I can make this a scene, if I can, whatever, right? And I wasn't having it. And so as I'm standing, I'm waiting for my podium, some of my kind of leaders of the team start coming up to me. Some of my students and then some of the other leaders on TAC team start coming up to me and saying, hey, what just went down? I'm hearing some murmuring. What went down? And how do I say this? It's like most of the leaders on TAC team now, we've got Jesus in our hearts now, man. And in our minds too, but he's not always in our actions. Sometimes, it's like this, almost everybody on the team kind of grew up in a poorer area, in a poorer situation. And there are certain rules of life. There are people listening that go, oh yeah, I grew up, in a not making any money. Like I grew up in a place where people were poor. I know the rules. And you know that you don't put your hands on one of the homies. Somebody doesn't do that. And so I can feel that the homies are wanting to go. And I honestly, and I wasn't sure if I would tell this part of the story, but I guess I'm here. I'm telling it. But I actually do tell them, hey, this is not what we're about. Basically, we're only going to match force with force if this goes down. Because I do think that it's going to go down. I just have this sixth sense, like, yeah, I could hear it in this voice. We're not done yet. And sure enough, we get on the podium. And like I said, guys, please don't beat this dude up. I know what's going to go down, but we've got to be better than this. Did I also think that, like, yeah, if we beat this guy up, there's no way that we're going to get a rematch where I get paid? Yes, of course I did think that. But regardless, like, hey, guys, everyone get in the prayer huddle. Everybody in the prayer huddle, and then you guys just pray through the whole podium situation. And that's where I left it, right? And I get up on the podium, and I'm expecting him to not show. I kind of thought that would be the move. Well, he still shows. Gets up on the podium. And I can feel him moving around and rolling his eyes and, kid stuff. And I go, I'm not worried about it. I'm not. You can see the official IBJJF photo. There's a huge smile on my face. I am not going to give this dude an emotional response. And he walks off the podium right before the actual official photo came through. Timed it perfectly. Pretty genius. He really was. He really did time it perfectly. Still trying to get a reaction out of me. Couldn't care less. I also get off the podium. The two guys in third are like, hey, come on, AJ, what are you doing? Like, just we have one more picture to take and we could be done with this. And he says something along the lines of, I will take a picture with you two, but I won't take a picture with this bad word that won't shake my hand. And like, he hits me with like a 1999 insult. I didn't see it coming. It hit me hard. I was like, whoa, like, bro, where do you think we're at? Like, you can't say that stuff. I know that we're in Tennessee, but like, you still got to go further south before you can start throwing around stuff like that, dude. And so, yeah, remember when I said the team was in a prayer huddle and they had Jesus in their heart? At some point, that prayer huddle broke. And, he says something to me like that, and he did get me to respond emotionally for like a tenth of a second. And I go, that's because you're a cheater. We can pull it up on YouTube. You shoot on people when they go to shake your hand. And then he says to me, and I quote, you should get slapped in your blanking face. And then he pushes me again. Those two things don't make sense together. You should get slapped in your face. You have the opportunity. My hands are down. I'm not worried about it. My head is hanging heavy from the gold on my neck right now. And so it's one of those things of like, okay, that was weird. It was almost like you should get slapped in your effing face. And I thought, finally, let's get it going. And then he pushes me. And then I'm like, oh yeah, thank God he didn't, because we've got Jesus in our hearts and we are going to respond to this very kindly. And the team did. The team did. I don't know actually what happened after that point. Actually, when his hands were touching my chest as he was pushing me, Devin Parada was just in between us. Like, it was almost Goku instant transmission like. And I heard him say something along the lines, like, Devin had like a long enough line too. Like, it wasn't like he just said nope and then was in between us, he was like, yeah, it's done right here, dude. Something like that. Like, he had a lot of time in this statement, but he was so fast. And then before I could even see what was happening, there were 5 or 6 more people on my side in between us. And people are like pulling me away and pulling me back and pulling me back, as if I am instigating this situation. As if I'm doing anything. I'm just watching. I'm a bystander at this point. I already beat this guy up. I already did my job. And like I said, I don't know what happens from there. I know that nothing happened that we got in trouble for because we didn't do anything obnoxious, which was a big check mark for us. I'm proud of. Shout out to the team. But yeah, dude, just the whole situation, freaking crazy. The craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm literally watching this happen, and I'm thinking, I watched this dude, and I mean, he cheated then too, but I watched him on brown belt kumite years and years ago, like fake tapping and stuff. And I was like a white or a blue belt then, and I just starched him, man. And he got so mad. It was crazy. But yeah, that was one. It was one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me. But it was also nuts. But it also was like, dude, quit trying to take away from the fact that I beat you. You know, I shook your hand before and after the match. Get out of here. You know. But yeah, that is all that I have to say about that. I guess I will give you guys one more little, because I know people want to know, well, what happened after the shove? I really don't know. All I do know is that there was a Facebook comment, and I think it probably explained the situation better than any way I could explain it. And the Facebook comment was, AJ'd, and we weren't having it. And yeah, I think that was the situation. And so let's go ahead right now where we're at. We will get into, we'll go to a commercial, and then I'll actually start the Q&A version of this episode. And I promise the Q&A part is going to be even funnier, but it's also got some really good content. I got some really great questions for this Q&A. And so let's go ahead and we will move on with our lives and get into the rest of this episode, get into this commercial. Hey everybody, I have a deal that you do not want to miss. For the entire month of May, we are offering 50% off of every instructional, every course at simplifyingjiujitsu.com. Half off. And we are doing this for the entire month of May in celebration of Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios 2.0 being finished. Of course, it's not actually finished. Of course, it's a little too echoey in here. Of course, we have to get lighting in certain places that we just don't have it yet. But the studio is workable. I am in recording a commercial for you guys right now. And so in celebration, if you guys use the promo code NEWSTUDIO, you can get 50% off any instructional, any course at simplifyingjujitsu.com. This includes Train Until 60 Beyond by Steve McKinney, Mastering the Duck Guard by your boy Josh Mckinney. What was that one that I did on Kimuras? I have a really good Kimura one. I don't remember the name of it. The name was probably stupid. STDs for BJJ by Kyle Watson. That is Simplifying Takedowns for BJJ by Kyle Watson, who was just on the show a few weeks ago. Also, Nick Sanders has a course on it, Star Spangled Spider Guard. The American hero Nick Sanders will teach you his secrets to being the best Master 2 competitor in the universe, and the guard that he uses to do that, and the guard that he uses in the ultra heavyweight and super heavyweight divisions. And so, man, just so much good content. Everything there is 50% off for the entire month of May with promo code NEWSTUDIO. Remember, that is simplifyingjujitsu.com. Hope to see you guys there. And we are back. So now let's get into the Q&A portion of this podcast. Like I said, probably 90% of the Qs that I got were about the situation I just explained. There are a few kind of add a little more context to the story questions that I'll hit first. So we still are on this story, but then after that, we'll just turn it into some of the regular questions that we have. And so I have some really cool things to tell you guys about today. Man, I've been on vacation for the week after this match, and so it was really nice to just get away and get relaxed, and one, to kind of gather my thoughts. Kind of a crazy situation, and like that. I grew up in the hood, so it's not the first time I've been called mean names or pushed. I grew up as a chubby Asian kid in the hood, so it's definitely not the first time I've been called mean names or pushed. But it was just bizarre. It was just a completely bizarre thing. It was, yeah, I don't know. Let's just get into the questions. Are you mad at the AJ situation? No, absolutely not. Couldn't be less mad. One, I just not somebody who gets mad about a lot of stuff. Exhibit A is my response to him pushing me. Just not really how I act, just not who I am as a person. But if anything, I'm appreciative of it. I don't know this, maybe this dude is really a bad dude, and that was, he just really doesn't know how to lose. To me, I still do wonder how much of this stuff is for show. How much of this stuff is, man, I just lost to somebody who's kind of irrelevant. What could I do to stay relevant? And so I don't know if that was what the situation was. Regardless, I'm trying to guess on somebody's intention to start, and why they started a fight. Regardless, doesn't matter. But I just look at it like, one, I wasn't at the top of Reddit for an entire day plus until that match. It was that podium picture. And I wasn't, it's been already on the IBJJF's YouTube. It's been my most watched match ever. And, my friend Uzo right now, oh crap, what is Uzo's YouTube channel? It's like, is it Ursinho? I think it's Ursinho. I will make sure to tag it, but he just did a match breakdown of AJ and I's match. And honestly, it's gold. It's really good. I'm going to probably do a match breakdown myself and give my perspective on it eventually. But I really think Uzo's perspective is good. It's also cool because that's such a full circle thing. Uzo and I trained together, I think when he was a white belt, a blue belt, and then maybe right when he got his purple belt, he moved and he was in California for a while. And so I was really glad to see that he didn't become BFFs with AJ while he was in California. And then this whole entire match breakdown was Josh McKinney's a cheater. Don't listen to his podcast. That would have been hilarious if he did that. But I'm also glad that he didn't do that. But so that's what I mean is as much as I don't want to deal with the drama stuff's so stupid to me. It also does I'm a content creator. It does get more people to try my content. And I believe my content's really good. And it's really helpful for people doing jiu-jitsu. That's why I'm not just going to spend an entire hour of this episode talking about what happened. Talk about the situation, but then we'll look at what we can learn from it, because that's what we do on the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. But yeah, those things wouldn't have happened had this situation have not happened. Maybe they would have. Maybe it was just that I won, but I don't think so. I think that the drama, I think that a lot of people have heard the story. And yeah, I just think that makes people want to click. And if that's why they initially click, but they stay and listen, it's just positive for me. I'm not too worried about it. Will you fight AJ again? If the opportunity arises, I will jiu-jitsu with AJ again. I'm not going to get in a fight with anybody. And I think that anybody picking a fight with me saw the response, not from me, but from my homies. And they said, hey, I don't want to fight Josh either. Let's just do jiu-jitsu with him. But yeah, I would absolutely love to. The match was a blast. The match was fun. How many 10-minute matches do you see that go that way? You know what I mean? That there's pace the whole time. I mean, we did both get stalling calls, one for not engaging on the feet because we were just trying to shoot disconnected, which is kind of silly, I think. But the other one was after he got on top, we were both pretty scorched, and I was trying to break his grips, and he was like, "Nah, we're not moving." But those there was like a 30-second windows where there wasn't a lot of action going on. And so, the match was a blast. If I ran a jiu-jitsu show, I would try to book it. Wink, wink. But know that you got to pay Josh McKinney to book it. But that, I would be happy to, and even in a tournament too. And honestly, I have zero bad blood. I really wouldn't even worry about oh man, what if we get in a fight and he kicks me off the stage at Fight to Win or something like that? No, I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, so let's just move on. But yes, the answer is yes. And if you do book jiu-jitsu matches and you want to book your boy Josh, the most controversial man in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the diabolical leader of the head nod squad, Josh McKinney, let me know. Send me an offer. I'm open. Josh at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Anyway, let's move on. Are you going to tell the AJ story? The reason I left this question, or this reason I was going to answer this question, is because I thought it would be interesting to explain why I did. Like I said, I was on vacation all last week, and I actually, right after the situation, I told everybody who asked me, everyone's like, "Hey, you're going to talk about this on the podcast. This story's crazy. You've got to talk about it." And I told everybody no. I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm not going to do it." I'm like, I don't want to glorify this. This is silly. I'm not, it's just not what I want to do. And why do I think that way? Well, one, my dad's that way. But two, so is Kyle Watson. And Kyle is my coach. If you guys don't know, Kyle was on The Ultimate Fighter, and he's on the season 12. He made it to the semifinals. He got to fight in the UFC 2 times. He went 1-1, and then he got cut. And I was listening to Kyle on my way home from vacation. He was on Roll Radio. I was just on Roll Radio 2 recently. Both episodes you should check out. I'll make sure to link both in the description. Those guys at Roll are really, really fun. And I think that you guys would absolutely love that episode with Kyle. I know I did. I tell you what I learned from it. Kyle was talking about at one point, they were saying, if you could go back, would you? If you could go back to The Ultimate Fighter. And Kyle said 4 years he wouldn't. He's like, the years after, I was like, that was the hardest experience of my life. I wouldn't do it again. And he's like, but then I've seen what came of it. And he's like, so then I'm kind of like, yeah, I might, I would be willing to do that again, as he's further removed. But they were like, well, what would you do different? And he says, a lot of guys played up a little more to the camera. A lot of guys leaned into the drama. And he's like, and that's just not who I am. And he's like, so I didn't do it. And he's like, I think that you look at how my career went, and I went 1-1. And he's like, and I got cut as soon as I lost. He's like, but there's other guys on the show that fought on this same exact show, didn't do as well as Kyle, but played into the drama, played the characters a little more, and would lose like 2 or even 3 fight spans in the UFC and not get cut. And so, you really think about it in terms of opportunity. To me, I upset a world champion that much and get him pushing me and, just 10-year-old mad at me. This is probably good for my brand. This is probably good for me. And so that's just kind of how I'm, looking at it. And that's why I told the story. I wasn't going to, but then through another podcast, listening to my coach, his advice was, you should probably just tell the story. I know you don't like this kind of stuff, but you do like more people listening to your podcast. And for me, if I do believe that the podcast is relevant and it is something that could be helpful to people doing jiu-jitsu, I've got to do the things that I need to so people listen to the podcast, so people first discover it, right? Let's actually completely move on, and let's get into some more helpful stuff, some less drama in jiu-jitsu, because I have some really fun stuff to talk about from here on out. This is from my boy Rob. Bionic Rob, actually. He'll be on the show in I think it's 3 or 4 weeks. I don't have the exact schedule in front of me, but he will be on the show on a Tuesday very soon. In his story, he has had double hip replacements, and spoiler alert, he is a black belt now, and now, meaning he got the double hip replacement before. Just an amazing, amazing story. But Rob is also kind of fun relationship with him. He's kind of one of my coaches. He's always given me new techniques. He's always given me new stuff to work, new ways to think. But he's also kind of one of those dads for me too, of hey, Josh, I've noticed you've been traveling a lot, training a lot, competing a lot, doing a lot of podcast stuff. When are you going to slow down on something? When are you going to take a little break? And so he's really good about keeping me honest. So shout out to Bionic Rob. What changes did you make during this competition run in 2023? So not a ton of huge changes, if I'm being totally honest. This is why I preach consistency to you guys. It's so cool that I'm able to preach consistency for the last 3 months as I'm losing and losing and losing and losing. And hey, guess what? I got a big win. Consistency is real. I wasn't lying. So that was really cool. Something else that I've stopped doing, something I've changed. And this is going to be a whole episode in itself because there's a lot of information in it. But understanding that not all training is performance training. Most training is not performance training. What does that mean? What is the definition of performance training? Performance training is, can I work tournament skills? What are tournament skills? Tournament skills are the ability to show up and without a doubt on the day, do whatever you need to do, your warm up, your extra shot of steroids, your whatever, that lets you compete well to start the day, as if you flipped a switch. I think that's probably the easiest way to explain it. Can you flip the switch? Can you go from the guy that everybody knows in the gym, that everybody fears in the gym, and then take that to the competition mats when there's pressure on you and your peers are watching you, and there is a one and done, you make a mistake and you're gone, understanding and mentality? Can you go perform there? That's what performance training is. Can you go to your buddy's team's open mat and go and win rounds? Can you go win them on command against tough people? Even if you can't win them, can you just stay mentally engaged in the round fighting for the entire round? Because that's performance. When we go to compete, that's what we're trying to do. But instead, in the jiu-jitsu world, we do this thing where we just go volume matters more than anything. Just get as many reps as you can. Just get as many rounds as you can. Just get as much as you can. And I think there is truth to that. Volume is very important. But if you're trying to take that volume where you're doing 20 rounds a night, and then you're going to try to apply it to a tournament where you get 2 rounds and you have 30 minutes in between those 2 rounds, and you don't get any type of warm-up mat, and you just got to have some warm-up that gets you ready to do that first round, that's real tournament experience. That's real competition performance experience. But when you try to compare that to the volume of doing 30 rounds in a night, or doing even 10 rounds in a night, what tournament do you ever see somebody do 10 consecutive rounds with a 30-second rest? You don't. So in my opinion, when you are training in that way, it's probably better to say, okay, this is volume training. I am here to develop skills, or I'm here to get a certain amount of movement or a certain amount of work and play certain positions, right? Play the positions that I'm not as good at, get a lot of reps doing that. But then certain days that are performance days. And on a performance day, you're not lifting weights before you go and compete. You're not doing a 10-mile run before you go and compete. You are saying, today my job is to win rounds. And that has been my biggest change in my training is I now have performance days, and then everything else is to supplement my performance day to, okay, I lost certain fights in my one day that I performed this week, or my 2 days. I have not been doing more than 2. If you guys need reference, stole these ideas, and obviously I'm saying them how I like to say them, but from Jeff Serafin, Chris Wojcik, Mark Vives, and Mock, Mahmoud Jabbar. Those 4, I did a Chicago takeover for a month on the podcast. Me and Bryce actually recorded those 4 episodes in like 20 hours. And so yeah, we were dead. And also went to what people considered the 2 hardest training sessions in Chicago at Tuesday night and Wednesday morning in between recording those 4 episodes. So if by the last one, I'm just like, I don't even talk, that's why. Those 4 guys all said the same thing about how they don't, what they were calling train hard. Like they don't do it more than once, twice a week. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, dude, I've been trying to train hard, quote unquote, every day of the week. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because that's not how you go compete. When you're competing, you do need to flip the switch. You need to go be able to perform when the bell starts. But when you're just in the gym doing 20 rounds, it's so different from an actual competition. You should be focused on getting better in those rounds and less focused on winning. When you're performing, maybe you're doing 4 rounds the entire training session, the entire hour training session, and you're doing your 7, your 5, your 10, and then having a decent break, and then doing your next one, and then having a decent break, and your only focus is winning. I've been doing that. That has been my biggest change in the 2023 season, and I promise you, I haven't, besides the stuff we normally talk about, besides consistency and focus, I have not found something more beneficial for jiu-jitsu competition than that, than knowing that there's a difference between performing and volume days. I'll do that episode. Like I said, there's so much to get into in that episode. I'll do that episode later. I don't know when. Like I said, I'm back from vacation. I don't have a very big plan on which episode is coming out when, but I have a lot of great episodes planned for you guys. Anyway, what other martial arts do you study to complement your BJJ? I don't really study many other martial arts to complement my jiu-jitsu. And the reason being is because to me, jiu-jitsu is a grappling art. And so I will basically look at all grappling as something that could help me in jiu-jitsu. So even though some people wouldn't consider wrestling a martial art, I watch a lot of wrestling. And even for enjoyment, I probably watch more wrestling for enjoyment than anything. I know that that'll change once I'm done being an adult black belt competitor. It's just like for right now, my favorite guys to actually watch for enjoyment in jiu-jitsu are in my division or they're in divisions really close to me. And so it's like, man, I don't want to watch these guys as a fan when I know I'm going to fight them eventually. And so eventually I'll go back to just enjoying jiu-jitsu, but I have no chance of grappling some of the, some of the high-level wrestlers that I get to watch. So I do like watching wrestling a lot, and I do pick out a lot. Honestly, even like I watched the documentary The Funk, and it's about it's a flow wrestling documentary. It's about Ben Askren, and I got some really good training method stuff just from stuff that he talks about in the in this documentary. But then I even got some technique stuff that I use in jiu-jitsu. Ben Askren would play 50-50 guard in wrestling, and he had a version of it, and he would do this belly wrap to back take. And people do it in jiu-jitsu all the time now. High-level guys do it to get out of 50-50. But like, not only did Ben Askren invent it, or at least show it before anyone else that I've ever seen do it, but his responses deep into the move were even better than anybody I've seen. And so I know I'm giving up a way to do one of my like best positions in 50-50. But if you watch that instruction or that documentary, you will actually see him deal with 50-50 in specific ways that you just don't see jiu-jitsu guys deal with. And it works better than anything I found in jiu-jitsu. So yes, there are, wrestling is probably the best thing to complement jiu-jitsu in my opinion. But I'm biased. I'm from the Midwest. What's the next one? Have you experienced racism in BJJ? So this is a great story. So I would say no. I would say on the mats, no, I have absolutely not experienced any racism. I'm half Asian. People tend to like Asian people. But not everybody. Not everybody likes Asian people. I know all the people who just like hit pause in their car, like, wait, Josh is Asian? His last name's McKinney. Like they're, those people, they don't like Asian people, but everybody else, pretty easy to get along with. Well, I have a great story for you guys. So we are in, oh man, it's either Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, or Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. I'm looking it up on my Kentucky. Oh, there's two of them. There is literally a Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and a Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. I'm trying to not bash one person's city and get it wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Kentucky. It seems like it was Kentucky. I don't know. Okay, so regardless, we stayed at a big casino. It was like a hotel casino, and that was it. There was like nothing touching it. Maybe it wasn't a casino. Maybe I'm crazy. And the people in Lawrenceburg are furious. Tennessee or Kentucky, I don't know. Regardless, not a lot of non-white people there. We go into this town, pretty cool town. We go into one of the first restaurants we see. It's about 8, and we are starving. We're ready to eat. It's my guys, Eric, been on the show a bunch of times. Eric Hebner and John Tice, not been on the show, refuses to come on the show, even given him the offer, refuses to. Terrible person. And my other student, Robert Arias. Robert and I are both brown. Robert's Mexican. I am half Asian. Eric and John, both white. Eric and John walk into the restaurant first. They say, hey, can we get a table for 4? And the lady says, yes. As she's saying yes, I am just getting done holding. The reason Robert and I are not in the building yet is because there was a group of old white ladies, and they're walking in, and I hold the door, and Robert doesn't walk through. He like stands behind me because we're nice guys. We're trying to fight racism here, man. And so as soon as she says, like, hey, yeah, you can be, it'll only be a few minutes. She goes, oh, it'll only be a few minutes. And right when minutes left her mouth, it came into clear view that me and Robert were standing with John and Eric. And she goes, oh, it'll only take a few minutes. Actually, it's going to be a while. Just like that. This is not like an 8-table restaurant. This is a huge restaurant. And she straight hit us with, it's gonna be a while. And then didn't ask like, should I put your names in? Nothing. Just looked at us. And I'm getting the vibe. I'm going, oh, this could be racism. This could be, she could be a racism, What is that? Daddy's Home, where they're like, what is, where Mark Wahlberg goes, uh-oh, Daddy's treating somebody different because of their skin. What does that make him? And one of the kids goes, racism. Daddy's being racism. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm starting to feel. I'm like, uh-oh, they don't like us here. And so I'm like, okay, I'm cool with it. No big deal. You guys know how I just brush stuff off. I start walking out the door. I turn around, start walking out the door. Robert is already in the car, dude. He's already waiting to go to the next place. He read it quick. He was like, man, where I grew up, this happened often, And so, yeah, that was the closest thing. It was on a tournament trip. We went and did the Cincinnati Open the next day. Murillo Santana beat me down like I was a race of someone he didn't like, man. He was putting a hurt on. And then the freaking IBJJF went and named that match on YouTube the most exciting match in this Cincinnati Open. I got off 0 offense on this dude, and it's an 8-minute match. And they were like, oh, yeah, banger of a match. Banger of a match. Everyone should watch this. People are actually in the comments roasting Murillo for not finishing a triangle on me. I'm out there fighting for my life, and no one says like, whoa, good triangle defense. This guy's very good. And they didn't even compliment him like, whoa, that triangle setup was good. You know, your close guard is insane. You had Josh panicked. But yeah, that's how that trip went. I think Eric Hebner won though. Yeah, he did. He was pretty dominant. So that was good. That was good, you know? Where are we going? Microdosing, is it legit? It's a good question. So this is the reason I put this question in is because I have something, you know how I am. I'm a black belt. Like you put a question in, you answer a question, and then talk about what you wanted to talk about. And so I've gotten emails about microdosing specifically. I've gotten emails, Facebook messages about just all kinds of different drug use and jiu-jitsu. And so that being said, I've had this idea for an episode. And so basically I was going to take every drug that people may do in jiu-jitsu, steroids, marijuana, psychedelics, cocaine, everything all at once, and then train. No, I'm just joking. That's not the episode. What I would do is there are so many things. Obviously, I'm doing this for informational purposes, not for promotional purposes, not saying, hey, people should be doing drugs. But so how I would do that is I would do a bunch of anonymous stories. And so have people email me and send me, hey, I did this and trained, and I had a terrible experience. I got on steroids. I got on these steroids, and I had a terrible experience. Or I won a world championship after I got on these things. And I just thought it would be a fun way to just deliver completely, for me, unbiased information. And then I'd probably give my thoughts on certain things too. But you know, it's just like some people are going, wait, why would you even need an episode like this? For me, maybe, you know, when I was 20, 18, before I had seen some of the world, I would have said the same thing. You know, I grew up in a house where my parents didn't even drink. And so, you know, like I never really saw any drug use ever. And until I started to kind of grow up and just be outside of the house and, you know, like be around more adults. And then I started to see like, oh, wow, a lot of people use drugs, whatever you classify as that. You know, a lot of people, whether they are doctor prescribed, whether they are not, a lot of people do drugs. And so to me, there's no information on any of this stuff. And I, more than anything, am just curious. Not like, hey, I'm curious, like what steroids could give me an advantage. I want to get on these. But I'm curious, like, you can't tell me in the jiu-jitsu steroid use era that we are in, right? Maybe that era lasts forever. Maybe there's always going to be steroids in jiu-jitsu. But there's no doubt that there is a lot of it right now. You know, like people always have different ideas, but there is a lot of it. But there are levels to steroid use in jiu-jitsu. Not saying like there are levels of how much of cheating it is. If you're taking something on the banned substance list and your tournament says that there's a banned substance list, it is cheating. So, but what I mean is like you look at certain teams and they all have this same exact physique. And then you look at a team in a different city and they're all on, but they don't look the same. They look like they're on something different. And so for me, that is really where this episode idea came from, is like, if I could just get people to anonymously tell me what stuff is getting taken, and then let me know of like, yeah, you know, I won a world title, but then all my hair fell out. I want to just know. I just want to hear about personal experiences. And so, if that episode interests you and you go, oh, I do have something for Josh, send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com, with the subject line drugs. It will not be shared with any other human being. You don't even have to you could put a burner email on it. It would make it wouldn't make any difference. I'm not going to read anybody's name in that episode. And that episode's still a while away. But eventually I will do that episode. I think it would be a really good one. So, I liked this one. How do you think becoming a father will affect your jiu-jitsu? So I think for those of you who don't know, my wife is pregnant. She is, as of recording this, I think she's 17 weeks today, like the day this episode comes out. And so, I still do have a little bit of time, but it's going to be a huge change. I've been asking, I told you guys this, I think, I've been asking a lot of people, like a lot of dads that I know, hey, give me something, not even advice, but just something that you didn't expect that happened once you had a baby. And my theory is if I ask enough people that, then I just can't be shocked, right? And so I think, I just ask a lot of people that, and then even something that you didn't expect that you ended up loving or you ended up liking or whatever. And so, I'm really trying to, just like I would with if I had to relearn jiu-jitsu, I'm just trying to learn from as many people as I can, get as much perspective as I can. And so I don't know how much, I don't know to the degree that becoming a father will affect my jiu-jitsu, but I know it will. Whether that means I'm not competing anymore or competing at adult or just have to take a hiatus from competing, I don't know. I kind of am just keeping my mind open, my eye open, my ear open to all of the things that could be. But I do know that raising the child is priority over everything else. I do know that, like if I have to choose to drop something, jiu-jitsu competition is what I drop. There's not even a doubt. It's not going to be the podcast because I look at that as the future for myself and my family. And it's not going to be my gym because that is the present and the future for myself and my family. And so, if there's something that's getting dropped for me, it is competing, or at least competing at the level that I have been competing at. Do I think that I won't be able to? Yes, I won't. By myself, I wouldn't be able to compete now. But, having the significant other that I have is such a huge part of life. And it's such a huge part of like people asking me, oh, well, how do you do all these things? Is because I have the right partner. I really think and of course I think I have a lot of great partners. But when it comes to life, I have the right life partner. Not the last time that Mop was just on the show, but 2 times ago, he said, I'm like, hey, what's the best jiu-jitsu advice you've ever gotten? And he gave me an answer, but then he's like, I have some that I give people. I'm like, what is it? And he's like, choose your significant other very wisely. And for me, I know for sure that, I know a lot of people think that Bryce is my significant other, but he's really not. It is my wife, Emily. And just like I have the right partner. If there is a chance that I can still compete and have the desire to compete at adult, I will. And the reason I say that is not because I'm superhuman or anything like that. It's just because I know I have the right people around me to allow me to do that. And so, but I am just going to play it by ear. We'll see. When are you going to fire your producer and hire the Allen brother you actually like? Obviously, this question came from Brian Allen. And at the time, this hadn't happened, but Bryce had an actual near-death experience that was pretty crazy, and it made me decide I'm going to start being nice to Bryce. So, man, give a shout out to the Allen Bros. I don't know, those guys being there for that win and cheering and stuff and getting to hear. I have a video. I think my wife took it, and getting to hear them cheering me on in the final in Nashville. And hear the stuff that they were yelling. I can hear Bryce's voice when it looks at the end of the match. It looks like I could lose. It looks like I'm getting into a bad spot. It looks like I can lose. And you probably can't hear it on the IBJJF's version, but on my version, you can. You can hear Bryce yelling, "You got this, champ. You got this, champ." And he just keeps yelling it, and he just keeps yelling it. And then as soon as I lock up the triangle, he starts yelling, "I'm not surprised." And yeah, that just got to give a shout out post near-death experience to the man, Bryce Allen. As much as I give him trouble, really great guy, but I can't deny it. Brian's right. Brian's a pretty great guy too. I think he's definitely at least 25% nicer of a guy than Bryce. But yeah, shout out to both Allen bros, always being there for me, always helping me in any way that they can, and just doing that for the team. Great guys. Let's finish with this, because like I said, I anticipate this episode will get a diverse group of people. So if you do love Josh Mckinney, you love the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show, if there was an episode of a podcast to share, not because of how beautiful the information is, but just because the story's funny and people like stuff like this, share this one. Send this one to a pal. Send this one to a friend. Share it on the gram. Whatever. Tag me in it. I'll share it too. I'll share your share. But yeah, just I want to make sure we finish with something that someone could take away and go, okay, well, this is helpful for me. This could be a game changer for me. And so this is advice for people looking to start their jiu-jitsu journey. And oh shoot, I lied. This is not the finisher. We're going to go for about 15, 20 more minutes. There were two other questions that I hadn't that one of my students sent me that I had not. It's actually one of the reasons I waited this long to do this episode, is because I wanted to make sure I added these two questions and then forgot to. Anyway, advice for folks looking to start their jiu-jitsu journey. So biggest advice, find somewhere that you feel comfortable in. Being comfortable is super important for your jiu-jitsu school, because hopefully you're going to be there a lot and you're going to be with these people for a long time. And so do all the trials. Now we're getting to a point, and as this episode ages, as this advice ages, we're going to be at a point where there is jiu-jitsu everywhere, and a lot of it. And so you're going to have a lot of opportunity. You're going to have a lot of choices. And don't buy into the gi is better than no gi, or no gi is better than the gi, or this rule set or that rule set, or this style of jiu-jitsu or that style of jiu-jitsu. It is grappling, and grappling unifies us. But when you start to do those other things and you start to worry about those other things, and people are going to push you to choose, you should only train one, you should only do this. It's all hogwash. These people do not understand. They are looking at it way too closely. When you see the whole picture, you realize that it is all grappling, and simply grappling can change your life. All those cool benefits of jiu-jitsu that you hear about, they come through the hardships that you face by being on the mat and grappling with other human beings. The reason I know this is because I get to have conversations with high-level wrestlers sometimes that have never done jiu-jitsu, but our life views are so similar because we grew up on the mats, because we've grown on the mats. So don't worry about that other stuff. Worry about what feels fun for you at the time and just enjoy it. That is what it is meant to be. Now for a piece of advice. Once you find that place, your first 6 months, you're going to get all this advice about what you should be focused on, what you should be worried about. You need to do this. You should be better at that. You need to understand this. All those things are great, but none of them are even close when it comes to how much learning the skill of consistency matters. If you're like most people, you have tried a lot of new things. And like most people, you have quit. And with jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu gives you this ability to develop consistency better than almost anything else. You look at how many black belts you see that start to do other things. I was listening to Sean Hammond's country album that he just released on my way home from Florida. Sean Hammond, if you don't know who this is, one of like the most OG Midwest black belts, if not the most OG Midwest black belt. Ton of schools underneath him. Just a super, super cool guy. He's going to be on the show soon. Actually, we got to talk. I'll let you guys guess what we talked about in Nashville. But we got to talk, and then you see a guy like this that has that much skill, and then he starts to take that skill of consistency and apply it to, how do you think he learns guitar? Through consistency. Well, then how do you release an album? It's not something that you just do easily. It takes hard work. It takes consistency. It takes follow through. But those skills get so developed on the mat that it allows black belts to start other businesses that they wouldn't have when they were white belts and follow through with them and grow with them. So your first job for the first 6 months, do not worry. Don't put anything in higher priority. Don't put anything higher on the list than just showing up. Just start to develop your consistency skill, to develop your consistency muscle, okay? Just start showing up. Say, okay, well, I'm supposed to be here Mondays and Wednesdays. I will be here Mondays and Wednesdays. I will make sure that I do that. And that is, it's kind of like consistency. It's a practice, right? It's not something that we go, okay, Josh is a consistent guy and he will be forever. If I stopped practicing consistency, it would be very hard for me to develop again, even though I'm a black belt, even though I've done it for so long. It is a practice, but as you stay in the practice, you get better at it. It becomes easier for you. It becomes part of who you are. We talk about how the mats change you all the time. That is the first change that you need from the mats, is developing consistency. Let me see. I hope I have these other two questions because they were really good. Oh, son of a biscuit. I must have gotten sent to him on Instagram. I'll give her a shout out while I'm reading off the podcast because I have to find her Instagram now. But FO Mindy 82, one of my students, she is one of my brown belts, actually my longest student. She is an author, blogger, and jiu-jitsu brown belt. And we also recorded some test footage in the studio where she did some really cool videos. And so you guys could check her out on the gram. But anyway, let me find this message that she sent me. So she asked 2 different business advice questions. And so I thought I would still touch on these because I just liked the questions. And these solo episodes, like, people tend to like them in like an hour and 15 minutes. I always thought 45 minutes was where I shined. If we're doing a deep dive on one topic, 45 minutes is where I shine. If I go any longer than that, it's too rambly. But I don't know. On the Q&A ones, I feel like I can go a little longer. I feel like I'm just chilling in your car with you, after a while. So let's look at it. Best business advice that I have ever gotten. So I have gotten a lot of different business advice. I have gotten so much different business advice, and I am the type of person that asks a lot of questions anyway. And so I would, I'll give you a specific answer. This isn't broad business advice, but it ended up being broad business advice. And then kind of look at this just from the jiu-jitsu space. This is more of kind of me accepting advice and the practice of that. So there was this point where my coach, I was getting to this point where I thought that I was ready to go and teach jiu-jitsu. And my coach thought that too. Kyle really was encouraging about it, but he was really big on, you need to make the right decisions, while you're doing it. You need to figure out how to do this correctly. And so, there was this opportunity to teach at a school, and I looked at it and I was like, I really want to do this. I really think this could be great for me. And I talked to Kyle, and Kyle looked at the school and he said, yes, I agree. You could do really well here. And he's like, I think you would. He goes, but this school, you have so much out of your control. There is so much going on. There's an owner you don't know very well. There's managers you don't know very well. There's other coaches that their programs are doing terribly. He's like, even if you were to come in and have a great jiu-jitsu program, this place could still easily close down. And he's like, and if that happened, then your name is tied to it. He's like, your name is tied to this gym that failed, and your name is tied to, all this stuff. And that was the first time that somebody had, I started my school at 21, I think. And so at that time, I was probably only 19 or 20, probably 19. And he gave me that advice. And he gave me this advice about kind of how important your name is, how important it is to, to make sure that people don't have a negative thought when they hear your name. They don't go, oh man, Josh Mckinney, that guy's a tool. I saw him push somebody at the Nashville Open. They don't do that. I think that, seeing how my coach did it and knowing that he had such a great, how would I explain it? Like such a great view of the future. And he really did. He built his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu business that is incredibly successful off of his name. He built his name in the UFC. And I really got to witness this guy build a name. And really, when you build a name, you're not just building a name. You are building a thought process that certain people have about you. You are building an audience. And that was my first time. Obviously, now I've made so many shifts in my jiu-jitsu everything. I run my own school. I have 2 different schools and do the podcast, do all this other stuff. But I look back to that, building my name, learning how to do that, and then learning what to do with that and learning how to utilize that has been super important. But just understanding that, like, hey, you're a blue belt right now, right? If you do something ignorant at a tournament, if you do something ignorant at somebody's gym, and you open a gym 10 years later, you could still have that exact same aura around you, that same name, that same thought that people have about you. Of course, you can't control people's perception of you, but you can control your actions, right? And so if you're sending stuff to people on Messenger that you shouldn't be, and that gets shared and it blows up your name, and your name, again, always has this really negative to it, that's not good. On the other hand, if you are known for, this is a perfect example, and I've not been perfect at this. I'm sure I've offended people and people hate me. I'm sure people just absolutely hate me. But there are a lot of people that I've competed on and off against, and like dealt with their teams for long periods of times and stuff, but we've only ever had positive interactions. And those people were hugging me and congratulating me and all this stuff after I won in Nashville. Why is that? Well, I think it was pretty simple. I think it was because of that consistency and being cool to those people and them going, hey, I know that Josh has done it right. I know that Josh has been under Kyle this whole time. That's a big check mark to my name. Something I tell you guys about, I'm proud of, because that's not something that has happened, that not many people still have the same relationship with their coach or a better relationship with their coach now and that's the coach that they started with. Very few people ever get that opportunity in jiu-jitsu. And so for me, that's something that, like, yeah, Josh has always been Kyle's guy. And that's never something that I've been like, no, I'm my own person, or I'm this or that. Like, nah, dude, I am Kyle's guy. I'm still Kyle's guy, Those things, they matter so much, even though we don't think of them very much, right? We don't think of our individual actions kind of being the thing of whether or not we're successful, especially in the jiu-jitsu content creation business space. So I do think that it's a really I guess I didn't even really give you the best in business advice. That was though, Kyle telling me not to take that gym, go to that gym. And guess what? They eventually got a really good coach. He was doing really well with the jiu-jitsu program, and it still closed down. Right? It didn't affect that coach negatively. Ended up all working out. But it still was a good call. It was still like Kyle explained to me the value of decision making and how it can affect your name. And I think for most people, like doing that is going to be huge. Just making sure you're not doing dumb stuff. But then for people to go, okay, well, I don't do dumb stuff. How do I create a name? Because that's the other side of this. Well, what do you do to create a name? I just talked about jiu-jitsu drama for the first time on my podcast in 192 episodes. So you know that I'm not telling you, oh, it's got to be drama. That's how you make a name. No, you make a name by creating value for people. People listen to the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show not because they like Josh, not because of anything else, but because it provides value. It helps them get better at jiu jitsu, and it's entertaining and it's fun. And so, as long as I keep doing that, at this point, there are people that think about me when they wake up on Thursday mornings. Like, oh yeah, Josh is going to post a new episode today. Sweet. Hope he talks about getting in fights and being diabolical and stuff. So just, in that idea of, this is such a topic we talk about on the podcast, or this is a topic we talk about on the podcast so often. Last week, we talked to Mop a bunch about the idea of content creation and the importance of content creation and things like that. But like for you, when you're creating content, when you're doing these things, you are not just selling whatever the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show is. You're selling your name. People are tying your name, my name, to the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. What I say, what I do, it's all tied together now. And so I think that, understand you have a name and your job is to build it the right way. However you do that. I built mine mainly in the Midwest through competition, not really through my podcast. Obviously now the podcast has helped build and grow my name, helped build and grow my brand. That consistency, done 192 episodes, that consistency has helped too. But that is the biggest advice, is just know that your name matters, what people think about you, how you treat people. It really does matter, even in a sense of business, not just in a sense of, whether or not you are liked. It will actually translate into your bank account. So then also, what are the remaining goals that you have for your year in each branch of your business? So that's a really good question. Probably won't talk about any financial goals, but I have, last year, the main goal for us was to get my wife in the gym, was to get my wife just consistently knowing what she was doing. There's a lot of intricacies with running a jiu-jitsu school, and there's a lot of different situations you have to learn how to handle. And then it was also built around me. And so then taking me out of it and trying to replace her in those positions and then change the position to fit her better, that was a huge battle in 2022. But we did it, and it's been so helpful in 2023 because we stuck with it and did it. She stuck with it and did it. I just was there. But now she's kind of created her own system for bringing in people, and we're trying to grow that, expand that. We do have an end of the year number of students that we want to hit, but that's not near as important to us as the system itself for bringing in students. That is what's really important, is like, what is that? Atomic Habits, the book Atomic Habits. We've talked about it many times before, but a big thing is to focus on systems, not goals. And so, yes, I do have a goal of students I want to be at if we perfect the system, but it's about perfecting the system. That is the goal for that business. The same is for the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show, Simplifying Jiu Jitsu. Those kind of they're not the same thing. They are two separate things, but they go hand in hand a lot, right? With the show, I really want to start making enough money to One, to be able to hire a little bit and take some of the work off of me. And so, because I've got a baby on the way, I've got things that I know I'm going to need to pass off soon. And so, I definitely want to do that. But again, it's the system. It's like I don't have a dollar amount that I'm trying to hit. I'm trying to build a system that brings in consistent money more than anything else. And so that is every goal that I have. It's funny. They're less defined than they normally are. But I'm feeling like they're having a bigger effect than when I just would focus on get to this many members at the gym any way you can. Because oftentimes it turned into me doing a lot of leg work to get one person at a time. And then I would stop doing that leg work, and then we wouldn't have something bringing in new students, right? And it's the same with the podcast. It's the same with Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu. You need something consistent that sustains you. And then you can make those big moves and those big, try to focus on those other new and big goals. But you have to do the system well first. And so those are my 3 kind of businesses that I run. And so my school and we're doing the same thing in our Jerseyville gym. Actually shifting, once I get off this, we're shifting the advertising that we're doing because we're just focused on our systems. Everything else, like if you have a system that is just netting you positive in anything, well, you're netting positive. That's huge, especially doing it with little effort, right? And so that's my focus. Those are my business focuses right now, is just focusing on building the system, making sure it is done right in all 3 businesses. And so that is why, I've told you guys about the idea of the simplified sessions and some of the other ideas that I have for the show, for Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu, and for all of that. But it is just a matter of doing one thing at a time, making enough money to be able to really keep the system going, and then we'll really have it cooking full steam. And then by then I will probably have some new ideas and new things that we will be doing, and hopefully some help. And so that's pretty much all that I have for you guys today. This was a good length episode. If you guys have as always, any questions, comments, concerns, you can always send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. Or if you were a member of the Gi Gazette, which means that you got one of my free ebooks, you'll just receive an email about this episode, and you can always just respond to that email. That's a really easy way to communicate with me quickly. And so, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Let's take it away to Josh for the outro. And that is the episode. I just want to thank you guys for checking this one out. I thought it was fun to tell that story. Hopefully it is received well. But regardless, hopefully it's just listened to, even if it's not received well. Like I said, we're here for views, right? We're here for listens. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys liked today's episode. Make sure that you guys jump in on the 50% off deal for the entire month of May at simplifyingjujitsu.com. So if you want to learn the duck guard, if you watch literally the first couple seconds of my match, I hit a duck guard sweep that's super simple that I talk about in the instructional. And it worked, worked on somebody good. And so, if you guys want any of those things, they are 50% off at simplifyingjujitsu.com. And if you have any listener mail, anything like that you want to send me, anything you think that the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show faithful would like to hear, send me an email. You can make it anonymous, or I can keep your first name in it. Just make sure to specify that. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, if you're a fight promoter, don't forget, wink, wink, send me a contract and money, and I will grapple anybody wearing anything. I really don't, maybe not anything, let's not get carried away, but I'll grapple anybody, gi or no gi, in any rule set with pretty much no thought, as long as there is a check sent to me. And that is all I have to say about that. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hope that this episode was fun for you. Hope you enjoyed it. But most of all, I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.